Power Rangers Megaforce and Super Megaforce, they are often considered to be one of the worst series of Power Rangers ever. As disappointing as Samurai was, it did charm the kids who were watching it on Nickelodeon at the time. Can't say the same about Megaforce. I recall one of my friends at the time, I was in middle school when Megaforce was airing, so it was basically not cool to talk about Power Rangers anymore. Basically, my friend said their little brother didn't like Megaforce the same way he liked Samurai, because Samurai gave them enough of a reason to watch it from week to week. There was some level of serialization, and fair enough. Megaforce was only a frustrating slog without any interesting lore behind it. And I'm going to try to burn through this whole frustrating thing, the first season of it only, for this video. The second season will come out at a later date when I can actually have the time to rewatch it. So, first episode is Mega Mission, where we open with a dream sequence that comes like this. Flashes of the legendary battle. Something we will be very disappointed in, not soon at the time, but pretty much within 2 years. I could be annoying and point out the Sentai-only teams here, but let's face it, this is on the low end of my priorities of disappointment when it comes to Megaforce. Meet Troy, the new kid who has fallen asleep on the bus. He finds his way to Mr. Burley's class. Mr. Burley asks, okay, which species will outlast them all? We get a few answers. The first one is insects who can adapt to the horrible things humanity is doing to the environment. And we get robots powered by perpetual motion. What's Troy's answer? Humans, because humanity is awesome. When they can band together, they can do anything. Well, the banding together part is hard, as shown by 2020's disastrous pandemic. So anyways, we meet the insectoid aliens, also called the Warstar aliens. They say that Earth will be easy pickings. And this is where I have a problem. See, Earth has been through a lot in the past 20 years of Power Rangers. The Netherworld overflowing with water that is toxic to humanity, animal spirit monsters, snow and heat miser aliens, more aliens, a mad scientist who is half dinosaur and has a Jekyll and Hyde relationship to said dinosaur, a banished ninja who became an alien warlord, Oni made out of pollution. Just saying, in an anniversary season, you might want to bring this up. Also, why do Malcor and Rock talk about conquering the Earth themselves when they're merely just part of the Armada's wing? I mean, Malcor is an admiral. It wouldn't be too hard to just make him the head of some kind of weapons testing fleet, I guess, of the Armada. Anyways, Gosei wakes up and summons a bunch of teenagers. 4 of them arrive, and Gosei gives his deal. He was mentored by Zordon and took the form of the giant tiki head, and will awaken when the Earth is in danger. And the Earth is in danger. You know, as an anniversary season, I need to wonder what makes this time so special compared to the rest. I mean, like a few months ago in your time, the Sanzu River was overflowing and sending Moogers and other demonic creatures from the Netherworld into your world. So the kids get their morphers and are sent to fight the invasion force. We get a fun unmorph fight, and then they morph. Now the party has truly started. After destroying the monster, they head back to the command center. Then, in this debriefing with Gosei, we get a very weird line from Emma, who says the helmet messes up her hair. I know it's a joke, but this is the same line Kimberly gave in the original Day of the Dumpster. Everyone really should have been looking at her like, what on earth you're talking about? Except for Troy, because he's the new kid. Because she's an outdoorsy biker girl. Huh. Really, if this was better written, Gia could have said, dude, you're a biker girl. Who are you trying to fool? Anyways, Mega Mission is a perfectly serviceable first episode. It's nothing great and a decent homage to the Mighty Morphin's original episode with some questionable writing choices. They do acknowledge there is a legacy of Rangers. Good. They do acknowledge that Gosei was mentored by someone and connected him back to the first season. Also good. However, Emma is particularly befuddled by the Ranger stuff. It's not particularly good when you're making an anniversary season to celebrate your great history, and then just half-heartedly acknowledging the history itself. for now I can kinda expect it, because remember, the little kids who came in on Samurai and not the Disney era probably don't understand the history of the Power Rangers as a whole. But this is a nice opportunity to introduce to them the lore of the whole franchise. This series doesn't do that. The wounds will become infected next season, but right now we're just going to deal with the Megaforce stuff. In episode 2, He Blasted Me with Science, we introduce the Zords. It's also the episode where Vrock and Malkor send a bunch of alien spaceships. Okay, it's just one monster who turns into a bunch of UFOs, but you get the idea, to go experiment on the humans. It also sets up the stakes pretty well if they did my suggestion of just make the Warstar aliens the scouting fleets. Because the scouting fleet or the weapons testing fleet just says, okay, this is how the species operates, this is how we can defeat them, and the monsters are just really scientists, not dedicated monster commanders, which help raise the stakes for next season. But what do I know? I just yell at this on the internet. Anyways, episode 3 is a Noah-focused episode where Noah helps Jake balance his act, and we introduce something frustrating about Megaforce, the Deus Ex Machina cards. Now, it's not as egregious as what will happen in Super Megaforce. It's hard to be more egregious than Super Megaforce. The problem is that we don't get consistency ever. We constantly get power-up after power-up. And I wouldn't mind power-up after power-up so long as there's some story purpose and escalation of the fight. Goseiger was heavy on milking power-ups, and they were also angels, so miracles happen, does have some thematic ties to it. Megaforce? No. Of course, it would happen when you compress a 50-episode Sentai into 20 episodes. However, this show is somehow worse than Goseiger at managing the whole power-ups bit, because Goseiger, like I said, was 50 episodes. The problem this creates is that the kids don't have the disposable income to buy these toys, and the adult fans don't have it either. And later down the line, you're going to be introduced to the Gosei Jet or the Gosei Wonder. It doesn't show up much in Goseiger at all. At least I don't think it does, I don't recall. It has 3 appearances at most, which really should have been cut. The problem is that you had plenty of opportunity to introduce lore here, and you didn't take it. Just why? All of these Deus Ex Machina could have been ripe for mining the past for lore, but no, they didn't do that at all. So speaking of Sentai stuff, let's skip forward to episode 6. Harmony in Discord probably makes the most sense in the Sentai when you realize the Sky Tribe has better hearing. That's why Emma and Troy being affected by Discord, even though they're not exactly close to him, even though they claim they were close to him when he first started blasting music. Yeah, no, it doesn't work. It only works in the context of a Sentai. Episode 7 is the death of Creepox. I have been skimping on Creepox mainly because he's been a blip on the radar in terms of the first general. I know Power Rangers isn't great with its generals, but Creepox is a load of wasted potential. Obviously, splicing several different Sentai episodes aside, look at Creepox's armor here and here. My problem is that the whole rivalry between Creepox and Troy isn't even half-baked. It isn't even quarter-baked. It's raw, in the most Gordon Ramsay way I could possibly say it without blowing out my voice. It's a vestigial structure from Alada and Dereputa's rivalry, except it only adapted parts of the beginning, none of the middle, and the ending. There is no substance to this rivalry at all. It's so underdeveloped, so undercooked, that it's questionable that they even put it in here. It feels like something that should have been cut in the editing room, mainly because Alada and Dereputa didn't have the best rivalry in terms of Sentai, but at least Dereputa left an impression. Quite literally, mainly because Dereputa scarred Alada's arm. Here, what did Creepox do besides a few monologues and some fighting? And then he's just disposed of like this? So if you think Malcor was pissed about Creepox's death, he's basically saying, well, we lost him. It's a footnote. But it's actually a pretty good way to incorporate how the aliens, the mutants, and the robots were handled in the Sentai. You see, Goseiger had Vrock, or Bredoran, or Brajira manipulate his way through multiple factions. Each faction succeeded the other. Here, you can't do that, mainly because the timescale would be absurd. So, what they do in this one is make them all allies to each other. Brajira being a Satan figure as the father of lies, while Vrock being a prince playing politics, is actually a perfectly logical adaptation between the two. So what are the Rangers up to? They've been cleaning up the environment and stumble upon industrial spillage. Radioactive industrial spillage. The factory is where the toxic mutants are based out of. You see, they're absolutely frustrating. The thing with the toxic mutants is that they spend a good portion of their debut scene pontificating about how humans don't care about the environment, and they keep this line of thinking until they confront the Rangers. They, however, say that more pollution means more power for the mighty mutants. Okay, Earth Condemnation Group Uamayu were actually ancient cryptid enemies of the Gosei Angels in the Sentai and wanted to, as the name suggests, poison the Earth, because their whole species wanted to turn the Earth into a paradise for themselves. What's funny is that they didn't simply keep this motivation and just say the next generation of orgs. You could have easily turned them into like mute orgs, like from reinforcements from the future. So they hate pollution, they hate being made out of pollution, and they want to pollute the earth to make it more palpable for the mutant kind. Why are they literally just being masochists in their own existence? You could have had a very simple motivation and say they hate the humans for polluting the earth, and they want to team up with the aliens to conquer the earth because it would reduce the human population. Or you could say the unpolluted earth is toxic to mutants, and thus they want to pollute the earth further in order to make it palpable for their kind. You don't need to slap both these motivations together in a contradictory manner. That's just not going to work. Now, meet Robo Knight, our Robocop-esque Sixth Ranger. Robo Knight is complicated. Hell, if I was writing this, we already established Gosei as a pupil of Zordon. Just make Robo Knight a damaged, unstable prototype of the Megaforce powers that Rita Repulsa damaged long ago. This episode also has some good writing for Gosei, which is probably the only good thing I'll say about Gosei. The Rangers are kind of annoyed that he was keeping their Sixth Ranger from them, but Robo Knight just randomly awoke for some reason because the Earth's environment was in danger. Personally, you could have just said an earthquake just, woke him up. It makes a lot more sense other than saying, oh, the environment is in danger. I think the environment was more in danger when the Sanzu River was flooding last season. I mean, I know that the seasons are meant to be semi-standalone and crossovers only exist to clean up leftovers of the past season, but this is an anniversary celebration. You kinda want to do something that makes sense for the scope of the anniversary. Robo Knight is actually the most competently written character from Megaforce, having an actual story arc. He warms up to the Rangers after they save him from Vrock in the next episode, mainly because Vrock is obsessed with having a heavy hitter on his side. Even after Robo Knight's desire to destroy a threat ends up putting people in danger, he does learn to appreciate humanity more, something only reinforced in the next episode. So in the episode Ultra Power, we run into another problem. They gain an Ultra mode. Ultra Mega Force. Unlike what Peony says, that is not Ultra Mega Epic, it is Ultra Mega Cringe. why is it that every single thing sounds like a parody of Power Rangers rather than actually something that Power Rangers would do? So they wrestle the Wild Sword, which is always pronounced in a way that makes me think Wild Zord from Vrock, get their Ultra modes, standard stuff. Episode 12, Noah doesn't get humor episode, which honestly is unfunny as hell, mainly because all the humor sucks. Next episode after that is Rock bringing the Aurora box to Biggs and Bloofer to use on them. They test it out, and in the next episode, Gosei Ultimate, we see Biggs and Bloofer infuse the Aurora box with toxic slime, scatter the slime around the city, and while the Aurora box saves Biggs, they have to enact the next phase of their plan. So Bloofer tosses Biggs, who is in the Aurora box, into the Tokyo Metropolitan building. It's pretty obvious that it's that. And then uses magic to enlarge the box with Biggs in it. I haven't checked Goseiger in a long time, but I am pretty sure that it was the Zombats / BB Bugs that enlarged the box in Goseiger. Honestly, I'm not sure why they would have just edited this, assuming it is edited because again, haven't seen Goseiger in a long time. But the sound effects for the Zombats / BB Bugs is still there. Why would you spend money editing this? All you have to do is just have Bloofer pull out the hive saying, hey, it's a gift from Vrock, and then just have him do that. Then, Biggs is destroyed when the Rangers enter the Aurora box, but the dimension is collapsing in on them because their focal point ended up collapsing. Whoops. And then Gosei goes, your bravery has earned you a new power. No, Gosei, you bailed them out. Bloofer is destroyed. This was kind of pathetic, honestly. Episode 15 opens with Emma imagining that the world was restored to nature in an overly romanticized, nonsensical way. I know she's a hippie, but come on, this is sad. Then we get some actual American footage. Yes, Vrock is completely in American footage here. Metal Alice is also in American footage. Gotta say, Vrock and Metal Alice are honestly more engaging than the same recycled shots of Malcor and Vrock in the Warstar Mothership. Especially since it does handle the footage from multiple episodes quite well, with honestly better justification than it did in Gosei Ultimate. Metal Alice, being a robot, runs through data, and she can just come up with repairs and upgrades pretty quickly when it comes to these robots. Next episode, Rico the Robot. Emma, you were just a hippie an episode ago, imagining the world returning to its natural state. Why are you sympathizing with a robot now? Episode after that, staying on track. Useless. So yeah, we get to the human condition in the episode after that. It's clear that this is from early on in Goseiger, since Warsaw aliens were basically gone by episode 16. Yes, they were called Warstar aliens in that series as well. Malcor dies, and so do the Warstar aliens, but here's the insulting part. The insert music goes, Rangers together, Samurai forever. Rock, being the most competent thing about Megaforce, says this is not how it was supposed to end. When the characters you're writing are aware that the music department has made a mistake, it's not good. So the heroes are celebrating, and why shouldn't they? Malcor is dead, Creepox is dead, Biggs and Bloofer are dead. Vrock is presumed dead because, honestly, you destroyed both Malcor and his ship. It's not hard to say you've effectively won. But here's the problem. Noah comments that Metal Alice is still out there, and I checked the footage from when they fought Metal Alice. She effectively blew up. So as far as they know, she's gone. They don't know that she was revived by Vrock. It's one of those, okay, this episode that they adapted was so pointless that it actually causes a continuity error with Power Rangers. This line really should have been, okay, Rock may have robots out there, but they're all mindless drones without a master to order them around. They're effectively done for. So more American footage. Metal Alice goes through the remains of Malcor's ship, and she does find her master, barely alive. And I gotta say, there was more dread and terror in Cyborg Rock's introduction than anything else in this episode, because the episode The Messenger is basically this messenger from the Armada appears, and then it's time for playing fight scene with the messenger, and basically having poorly paced Sentai Frankensteining. So, final episode, Endgame. We basically get an extended fight scene. And the Rangers get their morphers damaged. So, more fighting, Messenger destroyed, Metal Alice destroyed, invasion has started. Thus, Season 2 begins. It's hard to say Megaforce is just its own thing and you can remove the anniversary stuff from the season, mainly because it's thematically tied to being an anniversary season. The first season on its own is bad, but that primarily comes from its editing and the general feel of the show. Off the top of my head, what sets exist? We have the school, the command center, the not juice bar, in the mall. It generally makes the show feel much smaller compared to Samurai, which is odd given the heavy sequestration in the Shiba house of that show. However, I can forgive this. What I can't really forgive is how the show is edited. I'm not talking about things like Tensou Sentai Gokaiger being seen on the cards, or how the first shot in the opening. That's clearly not Troy doing the Megaforce morph. That is Alada, because I know that's Alada, because the jacket is Alada's. A jacket that Troy never ever wears in this series. No, I'm talking about like the Gosei Ultimate episode, or The Messenger, or Endgame, that feel like several episodes are just smashed into one. It's not like the skill to edit them together properly isn't there. Metal Alice's debut did splice multiple episodes together completely and competently, so the skill exists. I blame this on not actually studying the Sentai footage properly and picking and choosing what the heck they should actually adapt. Why debut the Gosei Wonder, when it really has little in the way of plot relevance? Was it Bandai harping on them to do the episode because that's what they were selling, and that's why the episode was going to be adapted? Because if not, that just makes the whole team behind Megaforce look really not competent. Because why would you adapt this episode? These power-ups show up at most 3 times in the Sentai footage, and then they're gone. It's just nothing of substance actually happens in this episode. And of course, Metal Alice's destruction, it's completely undone by the end of the episode. So, what was the point? And as for the characters knowing about Metal Alice's destruction, they don't even believe she was destroyed despite this explosion. Like, come on. You could have cut this episode. Why didn't you edit this down in the writer's room? Then the proportion of Sentai footage to original footage honestly feels like there was some contractual mandate from Toei that forced them to use only Sentai footage. I'm not saying that there is something in their contract that says you need to use X amount of Sentai footage, because frankly that's absurd and I don't think it has ever affected anything else in Power Rangers. But in certain episodes, it feels like the Sentai footage is the super majority of the episode. That or the budget was so low that they needed to burn through as much Sentai footage as possible in order to cover their tracks. If you're trying to do this on an anniversary season, then you could have just used some nice outs in order to make this more digestible for the public. Call the Warstar aliens rival to the Trubians. Call the Toxic Beast orgs. Call Rock's undersea base something he found that was an old outpost of the Machine Empire that had been long abandoned. It's semantics like this that could have been done to help alleviate the stress of the anniversary season while saving money. Now, for the characters. what about them? You see, the difference between Megaforce and its two immediate predecessors of RPM and Samurai is that Megaforce is more about characters delivering ham-fisted morals. Don't pollute, ignore a bully, don't chase clout, and other really insipid moral messages that lack any subtlety or nuance to them. Megaforce feels like Silver Age superheroes where they really don't change, but they will give out morals left and right. Whereas RPM and Samurai felt like they were characters who were going to be developed. Granted, Samurai did screw up with this mainly because it tried to take a heavily Japanese show and adapt it for an American audience, but didn't bother to try to adapt the themes and try to find commonality. But that was their intent. We're not judging them now for how well they actually executed that. Then there's the lore of this season. Oh, what lore? Gosei hands out powers left and right, and the problem with Gosei Ex Machina is that they're not allowed to have their own mythos. You need to have the power-ups represent either earning a power-up or escalating the fight. You at least need to sell that illusion well. Samurai, for all its faults, at least did that. That it felt like the characters were trying to master these powers and were training constantly to do so. With Megaforce, the constant power-up handouts honestly makes it hard to watch because there's no reward without risk to any characters, and the fact that you know these characters are going to get bailed out, it's not going to make you want to watch more of this. Audiences are attracted to conflict, and if you kill the conflict, then, well, they're going to get bored. I mean, look at any story. Either you care about what's happening to the characters, or you care about the overall conflict itself. Look at mystery novels, for instance. The detective may be a stock character, but if the mystery is intriguing, people will be drawn towards the mystery and not the characters. That's why murder mysteries are often quite interesting, because even though the victims are stock characters, how the villain puts it together is what makes it good. And frankly, the only character who gets an arc throughout anything in Megaforce is Robo Knight. Speaking of conflict, Malcor, who is basically Master Xandrid without a booze addiction. Vrock, he's the most competent villain in both Megaforce and Super Megaforce. We'll get into his character later next season. And Biggs and Bluefur. Did they not get a second draft? These two were such blips on the radars as generals, even though they were essentially arc villains in Goseiger, that it's kinda really pathetic. I know they were always going to be downgraded from Goseiger, mainly because I wasn't a fan of the whole arc with the Uemayu beast, but even I had to respect them more than what they did with these two. Megaforce's flaws of choppy editing, very bottle show-like sets, really bad understanding of a Sentai, really poor pacing, it's all going to come to a head next season, but right now, it's really just bad, but it will get worse. Sort of like how wounds, if left untreated, will become infected. Those are just my thoughts. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.